Hey there, it's Marley. Welcome to today's video. So as you can see from the title, I wanted to talk about some of the worst and best movies that I watched this year. If you're newer to the channel, you might not know I used to talk about my favorite TV shows and movies pretty frequently on this channel along with books. But in 2023, I decided to stop doing that. But now that it's the end of the year, I thought it might still be fun to discuss the best and worsts of TV and movies for me. Not necessarily only what's come out this year, but what I happened to watch this year. So in this video, I don't know the exact number for each, but I'm going to talk about my least favorite movies and my favorite movies that I watched. Let's just start with the worst movies because I feel like that just makes sense to me to start out with the worst and make our way to the best. But I think the order I'm gonna do this in is gonna be the ones I watched most recently to the oldest, because I might not have a ton to say about the ones I watched a while ago because I might have forgotten things. So let's start out with Xmas. I just recently watched this as this is a Christmas rom-com that just came out starring Robbie Amell and Leighton Meester. Going into it, like, I'm not a huge Christmas movie fan, holiday movie fan, but I thought it could be cute, especially because I do like Robbie Amell, and I did particularly like him in The Duff, which was a rom-com. I enjoyed his performance in that, like comedically and romantically. But obviously this movie is making it on my worst movies of the year list, so clearly I didn't really enjoy it and I would not recommend it. We're following these two exes. They were engaged at one point and we just know that they have broken up 6 months ago, but because the guy's family, Robbie Amell's character, his family doesn't think he's coming home this year because he has to work. They invite his ex-fiance, who they're all very close with, but then he does surprise them by showing up. So both of them are spending the Christmas week at his family's place. We end up finding out, why they broke up. They are not getting along and they have this competition for like who will get to spend Christmas with his family moving forward. So they're kind of like sabotaging each other and stuff like that throughout the movie. Seems like it would have potential, but I feel like this script really did not deliver, as a lot of holiday Christmas movies do. But I also think a lot of the acting performances didn't deliver. I liked Robbie Amell. I feel like he was giving it his all. Leighton Meester, I'm sorry, I know she has a lot of fans, but I think she was really bad. I think she's not good as an actress, I guess. I haven't seen her in that many things. Looking back, I guess I did watch her in How I Met Your Father and she wasn't good. I never watched Gossip Girl, so I don't know about her performance in that, but she was not giving. Their chemistry was really not good. I think if they had chemistry, that could have saved the movie, but they did not have it. His siblings were good. Apparently his sister is like from TikTok, my boyfriend was telling me, so good for her. She has some good comedic timing. I feel like some of it was like improv. Yeah, maybe don't bother with this one. Another one I have on my list is Silent Hill 2. I honestly feel like I barely remember this. I watched this during Halloween when I was watching all these like Halloween type of movies. I think this is like horror-ish and it's based on the video game, which is why I watched it with my boyfriend. He wanted to watch these. I think I didn't mind the first one of the Silent Hill movies, but this second one was just like so pointless, I feel. And yeah, I can barely remember it. I think it was just like really dumb and I think it was also poorly done. But okay, I'm gonna move on because I don't remember it very well. Then we also have Friday the 13th, the remake, again from that time during October when I was binging horror movies. This was so terrible. And I know a lot of slashers can be cheesy and it's kind of fun, you can make fun of it, but this one was just really terrible. We did a drinking game for it and even that didn't make it fun. So then we have a newer release. So I watched this at TIFF. It was called Dix the Musical. I think it's pretty beloved. I think it actually is getting good reviews from people. So hopefully this doesn't get me hate, but this movie was just not for me. It's following these two guys who are really competitive in their jobs and they're like enemies and they're dicks, like with their personality. The beginning was not too bad, but then it just gets too weird for me. And I'm not someone who likes really weird stuff. And then some stuff happened at the end that I just was not personally a fan of. I could not get into. If you like really weird stuff though, maybe it's for you, but not for me. Then we have the Flash movie, and this is really disappointing for me because I have liked some things from DC, particularly their TV shows, and the Flash is just a great character. I feel I really liked the Flash TV show. As I said, this, first of all, it was kind of boring. Ezra Miller, I guess, no, I don't think I like him really as Barry. And then we had like multiple versions of Barry. So we were seeing like multiple Ezra Miller characters. The entire movie didn't work for me. The ending, I didn't care about. It was so much focused on like Batman and then like some other characters that came in. I think if this is the first Flash movie, like have it focus on the Flash, have it kind of go back to the basics. DC keeps messing up in this way where they're like not really doing the origin story the best. So again, this is a movie that didn't really stick with me. I didn't enjoy it. It was way too long and too boring. One True Loves. Okay, so I read the book for this and I would highly recommend the book, the source material by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think I give it 4.5 stars. This movie clearly did not have budget. One of those things where you're like, there's no budget here. They got actors that could not deliver. Taylor Jenkins Reid is great at writing books. She's one of my favorite authors, but I'm pretty sure she wrote this script. I want to say she wrote the script with her husband or something. You could tell she was trying to literally copy the book onto the screenplay. And that's not how you do things. Like books are written a certain way, screenplays are written a certain way. And I think this needed a proper screenplay writer to adapt her story rather than just trying to literally copy and paste that story. The pacing was so off because they were literally trying to take direct moments and just put them into the movie and it didn't work. Very disappointing because I did really like the book, but at least now you know, don't waste your time. Wakanda Forever was a disappointment. This is one we're getting kind of far back now when I watched this, so it's not really sticking with me. I'm just gonna say it was a disappointment. I feel like it was kind of boring. Mystic River I have on my list. I don't even remember what that was. Mystic River. Okay. Okay, so this was like a thriller following these boys who went through trauma when they were young and now we're seeing them as adults. I'm pretty sure it was like nominated for Oscars and won and stuff back in, it looks like the early 2000s. Sean Penn was in it, Kevin Bacon. So you may have heard of this. It was probably pretty popular at that time. I was really invested in this movie. I remember staying up late with my friend to watch it. I was really interested in what was going on. I think it was some sort of murder mystery situation going on. But it was the ending that made it be such a terrible movie for me with what ended up happening. So obviously that's a spoil I cannot really get into, but I will just say, like, for content warnings, it does deal with SA against children. Basically, they were trying to compare these other boys' experience with a child who had been SA'd. And it's like, they were trying to compare their trauma to that at the end, and that character was a victim, just got treated so badly that I'm like, I cannot support what this movie is trying to say. Like, these other people cannot compare themselves to what this other person went through. As just a little brief statement on that. Book of Love, yes, this was a romance, and I think it had Sam Claflin, but don't watch it. Don't watch it. Don't be tempted by him. I think it was really poor, like, writing and stuff. He is like an author, and then his book gets translated. I believe it's to Spanish, but the translator actually like totally rewrites it, so it actually does well. So he's like promoting this book that's like totally different than what he actually wrote, and it's a romance between him and that translator. Again, did not stick with me, but don't be tempted by Sam, just don't watch it. Another movie I wrote on here was The Menu. I think I was really intrigued by this because it had some actors I quite like, such as Nicholas Hoult and Anya Taylor-Joy, but I think it was the ending, I want to say, that I really didn't love. I think it's very much a typical like rich people are evil kind of story, and you know, we've seen that a lot. Disenchanted was a really upsetting one earlier in this year. Obviously we all know Enchanted, the Disney princess like live action movie with Amy Adams, and it was such a cute movie growing up. I really enjoyed that movie. It's also a musical. It has James Marsden, Patrick Dempsey, very cute, very classic. This sequel, there's been so many sequels coming out lately. You know, we could talk about Hocus Pocus 2, we could talk about a lot of other movies, and they just are such disappointments. They don't get that same heart and like point that the first movie had. It's literally just a cash grab, and like Hollywood not really understanding what we want. Like, we don't just want things recycled. I think the music I think most of the music was not good, wasn't it? Maybe it had like that one good song with the villain singing. And I think James Marsden was like barely in it, and he was one of the greatest parts of the first movie. So they just really flopped. Now, this is one I felt really passionate about back, it must have been in January at the beginning of the year. And that was the Teen Wolf movie that did Paramount Plus do that? I was a huge fan of the Teen Wolf TV show. This was a teen, supernatural drama that I grew up watching in high school. I love this show. Certain seasons were better than others, but they decided to do a movie years later. First of all, a big mistake is they weren't able to bring back two really key actors from the show. That was Dylan O'Brien and the girl who plays Kira, I think her name's Arden Cho. They both could not make it back. I forget if they even invited Arden, but these two actors couldn't make it back, and then they decided to go with a storyline that's recycled from the TV show where both of their characters are like the two most important characters to the storyline. So they decided to recycle that storyline without even having two really key important characters in it. Then they decide to basically, I don't want to spoil, but I will. They bring back a character who had died in the show. And I won't say which one, but it was a character that we had moved on from, and they decided to just bring them back. A part of me was happy because I liked this character. I liked this character's relationship with the other characters, but I'm like, we moved past this. Like, why are you now bringing this person back like it's a fan fiction? It ruined another relationship, Lydia and Styles, because Dylan O'Brien, aka Styles, was not able to be in it. So that was disappointing. I think the writing was like not great. They had a bunch of random cameos from characters, but then none of the characters got to have their stories fleshed out. So many characters like Jackson and like Mason and things, like characters were there, but then there was no point to them, right? One of my favorite characters did actually have the most interesting story in the movie. I'm being vague because I don't want to spoil. I'm gonna say my favorite character does die. And it's a horrible way that they do this death. It's just so upsetting that I literally wanted to forget this movie even existed and go back to how the show ended. Another ship they ruined, Scott and Malia. At the end of the show, they end up together, and then it's like they just literally sweep it under the rug in the movie, act like the relationship never happened, put her with someone else that we never saw her interact with in the show, but suddenly they're a couple. So many things upsetting about this movie. So if you are a Teen Wolf fan, it will break your heart. Don't watch it. Okay. Now let's get into some of the best movies. Okay, again, we're gonna go from the ones I watched most recently to the ones I didn't, so that we can have my freshest reviews first. So I really recently saw this Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the new Hunger Games movie, and this is an adaptation where I did read the book. I read it about 3 years ago, and I find that's the best way to go into these book adaptations, whether they become a movie or a TV show, is that I've read the book a few years ago, so I have some separation from it, and I'm not like comparing scene for scene. I think even if you did read the book recently, you would enjoy this movie. It's a great adaptation. In case you haven't heard of it, I know you have, but it's basically a prequel to the series, and we're at the 10th Hunger Games, and we're following President Snow before he becomes president and kind of seeing where he comes from and how he gained that power and manipulated his way to the top. I liked this book. It was a 4-star book, and I think the movie was like a 5-star because I was just so into it. I watched it in the theater, which was always a great experience. The guy who played Snow was great. The girl who played Lucy was great. They did a good job of figuring out the pacing, where most of the movie was the Hunger Games, and then we had that falling action after, which some of that in the book got boring, so I feel like they kind of cut that out in the movie, and that was a good choice. So highly recommend if you've not gotten to this yet. Kind of random, but this is one of the movies I did enjoy during Halloween when I was watching all the horror and slasher movies. I liked House of Wax. This might be kind of like a joke movie because like Paris Hilton is in it, but it just screams like classic 2000s, and I actually liked it because it had Jared Padalecki, I think, and Chad Michael Murray, like a very stunning hot cast. I actually liked the story, and I tend to like movies where the killer is like a real person rather than like a demon spooky thing. So this one worked for me. I don't know, if you want like a throwback slasher to watch, this is one I would actually recommend. Another movie I watched during my Halloween binging time was The Addams Family Values, which is the second Addams Family movie. I didn't grow up watching these movies. I have no nostalgic connection to them, but I really do enjoy them as a little Halloween fan. I'm not gonna call myself a goth, but like I do just really love the Halloween season. again. And these movies are very funny. It's great like satire. Obviously, you guys know Addams Family. I don't even need to tell you the plot, but this movie was a little bit ahead of its time. Like, it was kind of woke. It was going off and it was fun. Another movie I enjoyed was A Man Called Otto. This is another one that was adapted from the book called A Man Called Ove, which I really liked. I think the movie just did a really good job adapting it. Again, read the books a couple years ago, so it wasn't super fresh, and I obviously had to change a few things, such as the setting. I think originally it takes place in Sweden, and then in the movie, I guess it's America. But it was just really sweet, heartwarming. Also will make you cry, but it's a really great like found family story. Put it on with your parents. I don't know. It was a good movie, I think. A movie I really loved that I watched at TIFF actually was Quiz Lady with Sandra Oh and Awkwafina. This is a comedy and it's about like these two sisters who are very, very opposite. And the one sister loves quiz shows. It's kind of like Jeopardy. And then her sister ends up like making her go on the show, and it's like their journey together. They don't get along, but then, you know, you see their sister bonding and stuff throughout. And it's just so hilarious. It was 5 stars for me. 100% would recommend. Another movie I saw at TIFF that I was pleasantly surprised by was Boy Kills World. This is not my typical movie because it is action based and has a lot of violence and gore, but I wanted to watch it because Bill Skarsgård was in it, and then I actually did have a pretty fun time with it. Basically, Bill Skarsgård, first of all, looks beautiful. Also, he is being trained as like a deaf warrior in this like dystopian world, and then it's kind of like him trying to, I don't remember the plot. I think he's trying to just like save the day and take down this evil dystopian government. It's funny. Some of the fight scenes got a little too long where I was like, okay, let's move on. It has some twists. It has heart. It was a fun time. Let's go back to an adaptation. We have Red, White, and Royal Blue, which was on Amazon Prime. I really loved this book. It was one of my favorite romance books I've ever read. I do think they did a really good job with the movie. It's fun. It's silly. Sometimes it can be cringy, but honestly, not that bad. It really could have been worse. I feel like the romance between the two was really good. I think the two main actors did what they could and really delivered, and I just think it was really fun. I was glad to watch it alone because I just like kept laughing and having like comments and fangirling and giggling. Like, it was just such a fun time. Honestly, one I need to rewatch. Again, I wouldn't recommend rereading the book right before because there definitely were things they changed, and I don't want you guys to be upset if you see the changes. They had to do it for pacing and time. I think it's like not that long of a movie, but just such a fun rom-com. Great to see a gay rom-com because you don't see that many have success, and this was a success to me. I really did love Barbie as well. Of course, everyone has already talked about this enough. I love it for all the reasons that everyone does. It was great to see such a focus on women and like anti-patriarchy. It was just so fun. And then also Ryan Gosling as Ken. I mean, he's just such a standout, just so freaking hilarious. I'm a girl, like, of course I love this movie. Of course it got to me. So again, if you by chance have not watched this, just gonna throw it out there, you should. Another movie I watched was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the second Spider-Verse movie. I didn't like it as much as the first one. I think that was like amazing. This second one, I still just really find the art style so cool. I find the story so cool to watch. Some points were dragging for me, and I'm not happy that they had that cliffhanger ending, but I do just think these movies are so cool to watch, especially in theaters. With the animation, the music, it's a whole vibe, and I definitely am enjoying this series. Oh my god, I absolutely loved Guardians of the Galaxy 3. This has to be one of my favorite movies of the year, and it was so nice to see after like Marvel has been kind of flopping for us lately, at least with their TV shows. Their TV shows were not really well done, any of them. So it was nice to watch something that was high quality, had that great humor, the great ensemble cast that all just worked so well together, good storytelling, but it also was like so heartbreaking. Like, I was crying in the theater. I was laughing in the theater. It was just such a good time. Like, please watch this. Me begging people to watch movies that are so popular. But I just have to say, like, I love this. And this was focused more on Rocket. If by chance you don't know, which is little Rocket Raccoon guy, and love him. standing him. Another movie I watched was Super Mario. I feel like I don't have a lot to say about this, but I feel like it was a very cute, enjoyable movie. I actually really liked Scream 6, which I feel a little sour talking about now, just with hearing about the two main characters now not being in the seventh one. We don't need to get into that, but I actually was quite impressed with Scream 6. After Scream 5 definitely disappointed me a little with how the series sort of took a change away from Sydney and was focusing on these new characters and stuff. Scream 6 was actually good. I actually grew to like this new cast that we were seeing, these two sisters that we're following, the friendships that they had, and we had, you know, some good twists. I think I did guess it, actually. I think I did guess it, but it was fun. It was good. Unfortunately, the rest of the series, don't know how that's gonna go. Encanto, so I was so late to this, but I actually really loved Encanto. This was a newer Disney animated movie, and I have not been on top of watching the kids animated movies lately, but I had to watch this one just with the hype and like the TikTok sounds. We don't talk about Bruno, like it was such a big one, and I see why. It was great. We're following this family who, like, they have magic, but there's also like a curse. Don't ask me to say the whole plot. It did have some really great classic songs to add to your Disney playlist. Good messaging, again, generational trauma. It's kind of the theme of most movies that come out these days, but I think this movie did a really good job of it. My final favorite movie I'm going to talk about is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. This is a horror slasher kind of comedy movie. It's about these friends, and then I think someone gets killed. It's like all these friends hanging out partying at this house, this mansion. I think one of them gets killed, and then it's kind of like a classic, like trying to survive and who done it, like who's killing them. It was very funny. A great movie for like my generation. If you're like around our age, I really think, or younger, I think the humor is really gonna hit for you and has some good twists at the end. Like, just was such a good movie that is definitely underrated. I don't hear a ton of people talk about this one, so have to mention that as one of the best movies. All right, I think that is the end. Let me know if you've seen any of these movies, and definitely recommend me one of your favorite movies from the year. I will be doing another one of these videos with TV shows coming up soon, so keep an eye out for that. And I should have mentioned this at the top of the video, but follow me on Letterboxd, a movie reviewing app similar to Goodreads for books, and you can see my reviews throughout the year for every movie I watch. All right, thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day and take some of these recommendations. I will see you guys next time. Bye.